Hey guys, welcome back to Zane Customs. This week's episode is going to be the beginning in a whole new series of videos I'm doing based around Avatar the Last Airbender. So as you might be able to tell, I'm going to be recreating the iconic scene from the first episode, which is the boy in the iceberg, where they find Aang for the first time, who is obviously the boy in the iceberg. And this was something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Avatar is my favorite TV show of all time, and I always thought it'd be fun to do a dedicated piece of artwork, based around each episode. I don't necessarily want to like screenshot it and recreate it exactly just in my style. I want to kind of have some creative freedom with it. But basically what I'm going to be doing with these videos is taking some of the most iconic scenes from these episodes and doing a dedicated piece of artwork for each and every episode. So I'm sure you all could tell at this point, the first episode is the boy in the iceberg, and probably the biggest part of that episode is them finding Aang in this iceberg. So I decided pretty early on that that's what I wanted to do for this piece. And another reason why, like I said, I wanted to do this for a long time because I love Avatar so much, but one of the reasons I finally decided to do it was because I've made the jump over to Procreate, which I mentioned in a past video, and I've done a little bit of artwork in Procreate, but I don't really know it that well. So doing this was really kind of a good way to help me dig in deep and learn all the different mechanics of Procreate and get a lot more comfortable with it. Because I used to use an app called Sketchbook, which I still like. I think it's a really good app, and I believe it's free. So you can't really go wrong with it, but Procreate just has so much more potential, and any professional that uses an iPad, they're more than likely using Procreate. And I've had a lot of people tell me that I need to make the jump, and I was just apprehensive because I knew there was a lot of things you had to learn, kind of a learning curve compared to Sketchbook, where it's super easy to use. But like I said, the flip side is Procreate has a lot more things you can do and a lot more potential with it. But to speak about my actual process in doing this, like I said, I'm new to Procreate, so there's a lot of things you might see me do and then I'll erase it and change it, which is normal, but I feel like I did it more often here than I would have before, just because I'm trying a lot of new and different techniques. But one thing I did do is I have a separate file open on the side. You can see there with like screenshots from the show and actual reference photos from the Arctic and places with icebergs and things like that, just because my style is a lot more realistic than an animated TV show is. So when it comes to coloring, I don't want to just do cel shaded or basic coloring. I want it to look a little bit more realistic. But one thing I do, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want this to just be like a screenshot from the show recreated in my style. I kind of want the whole image, the composition of the image and everything just to be my own thing. So if you watch the show, obviously you know when they find Aang, it doesn't look like this. It's an iceberg pops up out of the water and they're standing on it, and that's kind of what they're doing here. But I made the iceberg a lot bigger because I wanted Sokka to be a little bit farther away from the iceberg than he is in the actual show. And also you see Katara's got her hand up touching the iceberg, whereas in the show she runs up and takes one of Sokka's war club, I think it is, and starts beating at the iceberg to try to bust it open, and different things like that. That I know this isn't quite exact to the show, but it still has, obviously you still have Sokka and Katara, and I'm not trying to change the story, but I will change little things if I think it makes the composition of the piece I'm working on look a little bit better. And one other thing that I took a lot of creative liberty with is their costumes. And if any of you have seen my past video where I sculpted Zuko, I basically took Zuko and I said it was a more realistic take on him, because I did look up a lot of reference photos of samurai armor and things like that, but really it was just what I thought would look cool, and I kind of gave him a redesign. One thing I wanted to do was keep the same basic silhouette, but add a lot of detail and things like that, which is obviously something you can't really add in animation because it takes too much time. But that's what I wanted to do here. So right here, this is pretty much what Sokka looks like in the show, but you'll see later I end up changing his outfit a bit. And one thing I also wanted to mention that's great about Procreate is it records everything you do. So I like to screen record when I draw. That way you can see when I zoom in and zoom out, and if I have a separate page open with reference photos, you can see all that. What Procreate does, it just records the screen or the canvas itself, and it doesn't zoom in, doesn't zoom out, doesn't twist the canvas around or anything like that. So it's super nice if you're posting super time-lapse videos, like hours and hours into like 30 seconds, because it doesn't move so fast that you can't even tell what's going on. It just sits there, and then you can just see the artwork kind of coming to life. But like I said, I like to screen record so you can see that process. Unfortunately, I had something go wrong, so I wasn't able to record part of it, and that's what's nice about Procreate. I was able to just pull their video in and cut it up and add it into mine, so I didn't miss anything. One thing I wanted to mention is a problem I had early on starting to do this artwork is I started to rely too heavy on textures. I don't know why, it just kind of happened, but I'm sure you guys have noticed by now, but this whole art piece is just super texture heavy. Not that textures are a bad thing, but I went overboard with it, and you can't even really tell what's going on. I mean, you could tell that it's Sokka and Katara, and then there's an iceberg, but you can't really discern any details. You can't see any snow mounds, or the ice doesn't really look transparent or anything like that. It just looks like a massive texture with color going over it, but other than that, it doesn't really look that good. And like the fur there, I just used a texture to kind of give a semblance of fur, which is fine. You know, if I'm drawing something, there's someone in the background, I can do that. But whereas Sokka is the closest one to the camera, I should have spent a lot more time and really fleshed out the fur a lot better, and just everything about him. The colors and the renders are alright, but I think I went too far with the textures. So like I said, I did change the composition of the scene quite a bit, but I'm actually really happy with it. I started off with a basic sketch, or I did a couple sketches to find something I was happy with, and I ended up being really happy with the whole composition. I'm not really happy with the way the textures and all that look on this. Like I said, I think it's overly done, but the composition I'm really happy with. But that's pretty much it right there, and I'll pop up a photo so you can get a better look at it. I'm really happy with it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But yeah, I'm super happy with this one. Just kidding, I hated it. Like I said, it was way too heavy on textures, so I decided to start over. So with this one, I tried to focus a lot more on the actual colors, and like I said, Avatar is my favorite TV show of all time, and I wanted to do these artworks for a long time. And after I finished that one, and I'll be honest, part of the reason I kind of rushed through it was because I have some other ones that are already in the works, and I was more excited to work on those ones. But after I was finished with it, I just wasn't sitting well with me, you know. If Avatar really was my favorite TV show and it meant so much to me, I would put a lot more work into it. So that's what I decided to do. And this time I tried to focus a lot more on the colors and really trying to render out every aspect of the image a lot more. So it's pretty much the same picture as far as composition and all that stuff goes, but just done a lot better. And also one thing I did this time is I used the eyedropper tool to get the exact color that they used in the animated TV show, which I do for pretty much every aspect of the drawing, whether it's the iceberg or Sokka or Katara's clothing, because I just want that to be pretty exact. And you'll see by the end, the color of the iceberg changes quite a bit, but it was a lot easier starting with the original colors rather than on that old piece. I just got what I thought looked good and kind of ran with it from there, and in the end it didn't look good. So already, just looking at this one, I was already liking it a lot more, and I really tried to to look up a lot more pictures of ice and things like that to try to make this look a lot better and not just so texture heavy, because on the other one, like I said, it was super texture heavy and it wasn't even the right texture. It didn't look like smooth. Not that like the whole thing's not smooth, but it's smooth in the sense that it looks like glass, you know what I mean? And the other one did not look like that at all, and it looked a lot more flat. And this one, I think it looks a lot more three-dimensional, round, things like that. And overall, I think it just looks a whole lot better. Another thing I also wanted to mention that that I struggled with doing all these drawings, and I'm still struggling with it. I need to do a little bit more research on this to see if it's even something that I need to worry about. But when I started printing a lot of my artwork, I just have a cheap home printer. I started printing it just for fun, but after doing it, I kind of started to think it would be fun to sell artwork online, because I've had some people, mostly just people in my family, talk about how that would be cool. So one thing that I was struggling with when I was just printing it at home is, obviously it's a home printer, so it's not gonna be phenomenal, but it was really pixelated, and I was looking it up to see if there's anything I could do different, and a lot of people online were talking about make sure you have the right DPI. And I don't know what DPI means. I looked it up, but I can't remember. But basically, that was one of the biggest reasons I switched from Sketchbook to Procreate, is because you can't really affect that on Sketchbook, at least the app version, whereas Procreate you can. So when coming over here, I set the DPI to however many hundred that was recommended online, but doing that, you can only have so many layers. I think I can have 11 layers max, which sucks, because going from Sketchbook, where I can have infinite layers, to 11 made things a lot harder. And if I do a lower DPI, I've messed with that, and I can get a higher layer count. But again, I was trying to keep that DPI because that's what people recommended online. So that's something I need to research more and see if it's really that vital to have 200 or 300 DPI or whatever it was. It might be higher than that, I can't even remember. But that's something that I struggled with, because I use layers a lot, and now having to go back to kind of one layer per character made it a lot harder. And at first I was struggling with that a lot, but one thing that made me kind of get over it and just buck up and do it is I did this artwork a while ago, and this is done in Sketchbook, but this is all done on one layer, and that was probably my favorite piece of artwork I had ever done, digitally at least, because I really challenged myself with color and rendering and things like that. So I was struggling with this, and then I was going back through my drawings and saw that one and was like, if I did that, I could do this, you know. And it's not like this whole thing is just one layer anyways. I still have 10 or 11 layers or whatever it is. So I was able to make it work. And I say that old drawing of the Parshendi was my favorite piece of digital artwork, because it's not anymore. I recently finished my what will basically be next week's video. It's the second video in this Avatar series, and I'm super happy with it. You guys will see it next week, but yeah, I'm super happy with that. And another thing I want to bring up is I'm not going to be doing Avatar artwork every week. That's not what this channel is going to be. You know, it's not only going to be that now. You know, I'm still going to do the sculpting and things like that, and like I did in the past, I'll hop between sculpting and drawing, and even within sculpting, I'll hop between Minecraft or superheroes or whatever, and same with the drawings. Probably most of the drawings I post will be in this series of Avatar artwork, but I'll still hop between and do other things here and there, more than likely. I just wanted to bring that up because in my last video I mentioned that if there's anything you guys want to see me sculpt, that comment it down below, and there's a good chance I'll do it. And that's still the case. I'm not done sculpting. I'm still going to be doing that. And also I want to mention that it's the same with drawing. If there's anything you want to see me draw, you think would be cool, comment it down below. And even specifically with Avatar, if I have a episode coming up, I already, fair warning, like I said, the Avatar returns, which is episode 2. I already have that artwork done, but any future ones, you know, if you have a cool idea for a piece of artwork that I should do for the season finale or anything like that, let me know down below. Or, you know, any artwork that's not Avatar related, anything like that you want to see, let me know. And one thing I will be doing in the future with these Avatar videos is at the end of the video, I'll show you a couple sketches for what next week's could be, or not necessarily the next week's, but what the next video in that series could be, and then I'll let you guys vote on it in the comments. And like I said, next week's is already done, so unfortunately we won't be able to do that. But with some of the future ones, I have there's a lot of scenes that I feel like are iconic, and sometimes I can't decide which scene I should draw, you know, because I want to do one piece of artwork per episode, and sometimes I can't decide which one, so that's why I decided to do that. But anyway, it's just, I should start talking about the actual drawing process again. It's pretty similar. I mean, it's not like I'm doing anything crazy different, but I'm just really focusing a lot more on the actual shapes of the iceberg and this mountain, or maybe another iceberg or whatever it is that Sokka's on here, and trying to render that out better and think about all the light sources in the scene. And also, like, when it comes to texturing, it's way more mild. You'll see like a lot of it, it'll be a big chunk of snow, and then I'll texture kind of towards the end, so it still gives that hint of texture and makes it look like the whole thing is textured, but I don't think you need to go over the top with it, if that makes sense. And here's what I'm talking about, where I'm starting to take some creative liberties when it comes to their design. And like I said, I looked up a lot of actual Eskimo clothing and things like that. Same with when I did my Zuko sculpture clear back in the day. I looked up a lot of samurai. So this helped me, or helped give me a lot of inspiration. But I'm not trying to say this is what Sokka should look like or anything like that. It is a more realistic depiction. But, you know, obviously when they made the show, they looked up reference photos. You know, they didn't just make that stuff up on the spot. It's the same thing here. I looked up a lot of reference photos and then kind of did what I thought would look cool, you know. And like I said, I try to make sure that the silhouette is still the same. I'm not trying to change his suit too drastically. I still want it to be very similar. And, you know, he's still gonna have blue fur and all those things. I still want it to be Avatar, but I'm just changing the costume up a little bit. One thing I also ended up doing is I took away Sokka's weapons. And well, here you can see I drew a little sketch for his club, but in the end I ended up taking it away because I thought it helped give that sense of awe a little bit more. I wanted it to look like he was in shock more than he was like going to attack this giant fantastical iceberg or something like that, you know. But here with Katara is pretty much the same issue as in the old video, as far as composition and like actual costume design, and that's pretty consistent to what she has in the show. And the only real big difference is, like, I didn't, obviously the texture thing that I keep saying, but also she's mostly just one color because the iceberg is glowing because of Aang and his tattoos and his eyes and all that are making it glow. And I want it to be a much more powerful light, so she's kind of being overwhelmed by the light. So I didn't want there to be too much detail on her, because I had a lot more detail on her on the past version of it, and I thought it looked weird with, you know, how bright the light was and how far away she was from the camera. She was just about as detailed as Sokka was, so it didn't really make sense. And also, when redesigning these, I just did what I thought looked cool. You know, I'm not trying to say this is what he should look like. You know, it's just one person's fan art, basically. And I just wanted to mention that because in future videos, obviously, Sokka and Katara are probably going to pop up here and there in some of my other artworks. Their suits might be totally different. They definitely will. When you think that right now Sokka's got his overcoat on and things like that, and he normally doesn't have an overcoat because they end up traveling the world, and it's, you know, it'd be too hot to wear that all the time. Same with Katara. But even under that his tunic. It might change from episode to episode just because this is just fan art and it's just something I'm doing for fun, and if I end up coming up with something that I think is a better design, I might go with that. I will try to be consistent with it because, like I said, this is a whole series of videos I want to do, one for every episode of the Avatar series. So I think it would look better if it was pretty consistent throughout. But that is one thing that might change here and there. I might have little details change and things like that. And like I mentioned earlier, when I came to coloring these guys, I used the eyedropper tool to get the exact color of or the exact shade of blue that they used in the animated series. And you can see at this point it looks drastically different. You can see side by side right there, it's a much different shade of blue, and which I'm fine with that. I think it looks good and I think it fits the scene, but that's something I just wanted to mention because, like I said, I like to start off with the original colors, but obviously things change a lot throughout your process, and I was trying to think of the lighting in the scene and how that would affect his colors, and I want it to be nighttime in my scene, whereas in the show I think it's like midday or something, or maybe the morning. I don't know what time it's supposed to be, but the sun's out, whereas when I did this one, for whatever reason, I just thought it would look cool at night, and that's what I did. So, you know, his fur would look a little bit different, and also I tried coloring it and being a little bit more consistent with the original shade of blue, and it looked a little too cartoony for me. Not that you couldn't do it and make it look good. I was just having too much trouble with it, so I ended up kind of shying away from it and going with this shade of blue, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. One thing I found that I think helps a lot is going and coloring your entire scene, fully rendering it out, and then adding a light texture on top of that. And like I said with the snow, there with a lot of it I just had like a hint of texture, like coming from the shadows into the lighter parts, and then that helped give the sense that the whole, you know, snow has got texture across the whole thing, but it's not overly done, you know. And it was the same with doing his the leather or the fur or whatever on his costume. I just tried to go a little bit more subtle with it, and I'm super happy with the way this version of this scene ended up turning out. But like I said, next week's video is my favorite piece of artwork I've ever done, and you know, hopefully every time I put out a video I could say, you know, this is the best thing I've ever done, because I've been putting more time and more effort into each and every one of them. Like I said a couple times now, Avatar is my favorite TV show of all time, and so I really want to do it justice, and I don't want to phone it in. You know, I want to put a lot of time, and I want to put a lot of effort into each and every piece of artwork that I put out. So not to say that this one sucks. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, but after finishing next week's video, I'm just hoping that, you know, every week I can gain a new skill and make the artwork look better every week. You know, I already finished next week's, and I spent a lot more time on it than I did on this one. Not because I was just trying to rush this one. I thought this one looked good where it was, but this other one I spent a lot more time on it, and now that makes me want to spend more time on everything I do in the future, you know, just because it looks so much better. This is probably one of my favorite parts of sculpting, drawing, anything, is just these fine little details. You got the basic shape, the basic coloring and rendering, all that's done, and then you're just going in and adding little details. I think it really makes the whole artwork pop a lot more. And you know, like I said, I try to do a little bit more realistic take on it. So I don't know if having seam lines like this is realistic to what actual Eskimos would wear. Again, I just doing what looks cool, but adding in these seams and having the threading go through there is just one of my favorite parts. I think it brings artwork together. So when doing the background this time, like I said, I wanted it to be dark and nighttime because I think it made it look a little bit more cinematic. But I ended up taking out the northern lights. Not that I didn't think they look cool. I think the Northern Lights are awesome, but I just couldn't do them justice. I couldn't make them look as cool as I wanted to, so I just decided to do a starry night and still have a green haze kind of in the distance. And there it is. That's the finished drawing. Again, I'm super happy with the way it turned out. I think it's a lot better than the first version. But let me know what you guys think, if you like it, or if you liked the other version better for whatever reason. Let me know, and let me know why you do. And like I said, if there's anything you want me to work on in the future, hit me up in the comments. There's a good chance I'll end up doing it. And I also just want to mention that I have an Instagram and an Etsy account that are both named Zane Customs, and I'll have links in the description if you want to check those out. Anything you see me sculpt on here, and possibly in the future, anything you see me draw on here, I might start doing art prints up there. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.